Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tigerites, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 54 of Stepping Wild. Too tired. He let himself get to abyss tired. If he hadn't, too abyss tired, if he hadn't, okay, there's no comma here. If he hadn't noticed the life essence in the room until now. He had to give it to Charlie as the fighter leaned forward in the chair and cast his face in shadows. He could definitely look menacing. Care to explain what you've been up to? The man asked. Before you say you don't know what he's talking about, Cinta said in a hard tone, sitting cross-legged on the bed. How you're dressed is telling enough. Uzuma leaned against the wall by the window. I'll give you this. You can play straight well enough. The anger that the man put in matched what Tibs needed to work at not putting in those words. For a noble. I'm not a noble. Right, the archer said derisively. I borrowed this from Ern's. Oh, we know, Charlie said. Doesn't tell us why, though. Or what you're doing in the university, Cinta added. He leaned against the door. What gave me away? It would be good to get confirmation of where he'd made his mistake. Ismael told me you'd already gave her everything she needed for my jewelry when I checked with her. Also said you gave her much more than needed. I wasn't with you in the storm, so I thought you three had added that to your task. But Charlie Nozuma knew nothing about getting gems. Then I heard how extra shops had also had water damage. The storm was strong enough, I doubt anyone much thought of it, but there were a few gem shops that were hit. Even one got its stuck scattered on the street. We got to wondering why you didn't want our help with that. Uzuma said. That was not what he'd expected to have given him away. So we had to question, Charlie said, leaning back in the chair and chasing most of the shadows off his face, what exactly you're playing at. If you're setting us up to take the fall while you enjoy the perks of all that money. Perks like having access to the university. That's not what this is. Then he added under the suspicious look, not exactly. We're going to want exactness, Charlie said, if you want to avoid my fist expressing how I feel right now. The job is still on, they said. The university is a personal project and incorporated. So, Cinta said suspiciously, suspicious tone still loud. You're still after some high noble for revenge? Her expression and the shift in the tone stopped him from confirming he was. This was no longer something he could fix by lying. No, but I have narrowed the list of targets to 6, part of what I spent the day doing. The other part, she demanded before Charlie spoke. Personal. It won't impact the job. Don't know that's going to be enough, Uzuma stated. It'll have to be. I'm not sharing that part. Charlie leaned forward again. I can make you. This time, the shadows made the man look more ridiculous than frightening, and Tibs couldn't stop to snort. You're not going to do that. We go that way, and you don't get the money you want. Your friend doesn't get the money for the cleric. Uzuma was in his face faster than Tibs expected. I don't do well with threats. They aren't threats. It's laying out what you're losing if we do this. I didn't mention the university or the part I folded within the job because it's personal and I wasn't going to let it affect it. A slight lie wouldn't hurt here. It wasn't like they could know this had been what his thinking had been when he started this. As for the jewelry, it was an on-the-spot idea. I had some of the weakening agent left over, and the storm was going on. I'd already cased the shop, so I took advantage of the situation. Uzuma didn't move. The getting lost because of the storm? Tib shrugged. Easier than going through the explanation. I didn't expect it to come up. You didn't think that me not having to talk a jeweler into handing me the jewels for my costume wouldn't come up? Cinta asked, surprised. Put that way, his reasoning did seem odd. It was a long day, a long, tiring day. Not the best decision I've made. It does put us in a difficult situation, Charlie said. Uzuma turned to face the fighter. You can't be serious. Are you thinking of trusting him after this? His reasoning isn't unreasonable, Sinto said. He's going to leave with the money and leave us to deal with the nobles, the guard, and the master. If this is about money, Charlie said, why give all the extra gems to Ismail? Oh, I don't know, the archer said with derision, maybe so you'll be an idiot and believe him. I don't betray my team. I bet you think we're dumb. Zuma rounded on him, but Tibs caused a fist. He strengthened himself with earth to keep him from pulling it out. I get that you're angry. I was an idiot not to tell you everything from the start, but I'm not used to sharing personal stuff. That's the kind of stuff strangers use against me. I thought we were your team, Charlie said, hurt. Uzuma gave up trying to get out of Tibbs' grip. You are now, have been for a while, but back then we were all strangers. Why not trust us with this before? The archer's eyes were filled with anger, but when Tibbs released him, he returned to the wall. We were busy. It's small enough it didn't occur to me. What happens now? Charlie asked. That's up to you. I can't convince you what I've done until now isn't just so I'd get access to the university. I don't think you'd have it continue with earns fitting if that was the case, Sinta said. You don't seem to enjoy it. Standing still for hours is no fun. Come on, Uzuma exclaimed. That's exactly what you do, Sin. You you keep you you keep no, yeah you keep with the act until you have everything you want. She looked at Tibbs, who shrugged. Like I said, I can't convince you. Uzuma's right that everything looks like the university was what I was after, and I have that. All you have is my word that I'll see the rest through. Ismail can make jewelry and sell that on the cheap, Sinta said. It's going to help the theater. He didn't have to do that. I wouldn't have if I'd been the one holding that bag and it wasn't the theater. But that just get them permit for a couple of seasons. I really hope you're being truthful, Thibault. I'm still in, Charlie said. Of course you are, Uzuma said. All you care about is the money. Abyss, yes, I want the money. He stood. But Naris needs it too. His sister is a friend of mine, and it's my fault the master had his people fall on her like they did. You never said that, the archer said, surprised. Oh, right, because that's the kind of thing you tell every stranger you meet. So, yes, I'm in it for the money and to kick some nobles where it hurts. But more importantly, to make sure my friend gets to have a life again. Charlie settled. Are you in? We can't do this without you. We can, Tibbs said before Zuma responded. The fighter glared at him over his shoulder. Really? I give him this talk and you just tell him he can leave and we'll be fine? But I'd rather have you on the team, Uzuma. Tibbs ignored Charlie. You know what? This belongs ahead. Tibbs ignored Charlie. But I'd rather have you on the team, Uzuma. When things go down, it's going to be quick and we're going to need someone who's attentive and fast to react. I'm confident that with Charlie's muscle and Sinto's wit, we'll manage. But with you at our side, I know we'll leave there with all the money in their coffers. Charlie's talk was more inspiring, the archer said. But I'm the one you need to trust. That's how I see the situation. If you walk away, I trust you not to go to the master or the guards, so I'm willing to continue. We might not make it out with everything, but we'll get enough to make it worthwhile. We could bring in someone else, Sinto pointed out. Earns will be done in the costume in no more than 2 weeks. Do you know anyone on the master's bad side as good as Uzuma that you can trust not to sell us out to regain his favor? She shook her head, and Tibbs looked at Charlie. The people I hang out with aren't known for thinking quickly. The archer rubbed his temple as he continued. But my presence on the team doesn't change anything, does it? It changes a lot of things, Tibs replied. You're an extra fighter for when the fighting starts. If we're chased during the escape, you can take to the roof. You can take to the roof and guide both guide and support us. With you, we will definitely not be hurt as badly as without. There's a comma here. By the time it's all over. Uzuma rested his head against the wall, and Tim sympathized with the headache he seemed to be getting. All right, he sighed. I'm still in. He fixed his gaze on Tibs. But I'm sticking with you from now on. You can't get into the university. The rest of the time, then. I run the alleys and get in and out of buildings. The archer smirked. If you manage to lose me, I'll be impressed. Tibs had to admit Uzuma was good. What impressed him more was that among all the roof runners and trackers Tibs had known and dealt with, Uzuma hadn't started as a thief. Being able to climb walls to reach the roof for a good vantage point was important for an archer, but navigating them and keeping track of someone on the ground was an entirely different set of skills. But he'd had to lose the archer for this. Tibs couldn't risk the other man being noticed while he studied the nobles' houses. He'd narrowed it down further to two. Both were extravagant buildings taking over multiple city blocks when including the maintained yards around them. One was an even 4 floors, while the other had a section stretching up 3 more, almost like they'd intended to have a tower there but hadn't completed it. Multiple rooms, and both had metal safes, small and large. The largest were in the best secured room. The 4-story house had theirs under it. The room was next to the cellar, and by what he sensed of the wood and metal and water, the entrance hid behind a shelf of bottles. The lock was complex, but not magical. The other was under the would-be tower on the 3rd floor, and was protected through magic. The weave was too complex for him to even guess what it all did, but an alarm was certain. The chaos that would happen when it triggered could be used, but would draw everyone hired to protect the safe there. Not insurmountable, but more trouble than his team needed unless... The tower itself had no protection other than its height. The weaves protecting the safe were on the door and walls, not the ceiling. It was wood with stone pavers, so he could go through them easily and without triggering the magical protection. All it would take is revealing to his team what he could do, and he'd be able to empty the safe while they distracted the partygoer, and they'd have all the money without. And they'd have all the money without? And they'd have all the money. While he wasn't willing to trust them that far, he could prepare the way for him and them, arrange things so that, as he preferred doing on the final job, the guards were busy with someone else while the team pulled it off. The team pulled the job. It was time to tell them about Fleet Fingers. He chuckled as he vanished into the alley's shadows. Cinta would appreciate the flair with which he played that character. And that concludes chapter 54 of Stepping Wild. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available for free on Royal Road. If you want to support me and read ahead of that is on my Patreon. That is on Ream Story, where you can read ahead by about 2 weeks. And if you're looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.